So, as much as I would love to, to sit here and not play again anymore today, to not push my luck, and to just enjoy the moments of this team winning a cup and of this team being just beautiful. We do have to move on to our first offseason, and this is where, for people who have never seen a rules-heavy series of mine before, this is where things get interesting. Because the offseason isn't necessarily so easy. Now, before we can do anything in relation to re-signing, we need the cap to be confirmed for next season. There we go. Maximum player salary is 7.5. The minimum salary stays the same. Honestly, really quickly, let's just go ahead and save that just in case. And honestly, I should probably create a new file too to play it safe as well. It's the way to do it. The old backup save files. All right. In terms of contracts that are up, right? Goalie-wise, Casey DeSmith, we're letting him go. Obviously, he had an 885 in 21 games. He does have Sponge, but he's going. Especially for $2 million, we know Casey DeSmith is out. Lindbergh is signed through next year, which is beautiful. And then obviously, like Blomqvist and Calle Klang are both going to be signed as minor league goalies. So pretty much we're set in goal. Next year it'll be Jari and Lindbergh, and then the AHL will be Blomqvist, Domingue, Klang, and Diorio. So Louis Domingue can be like our third goalie at the NHL level. Actually, no, wait, Domingue's up. Never mind. But yeah, basically our goaltending situation's fine. Defensively, we have to make a decision on Chris Letang. Now, in terms of contract negotiations, I am only allowed to adjust the year by one. So I can offer him a 1, 2, or 3-year deal. Here is the problem. Anything above 5.25, we risk a full no movement clause for one Chris Letang, who of course already has one IRL, which is why we wouldn't have dealt him this year. I want to keep Chris Letang. Spoiler alert, I want to keep Chris Letang. I do. In terms of renegotiations, I can sign him to whatever, but I do want to keep Chris Letang. He wants that 2-year deal. A 1-year deal, the money goes way too high.
Here comes a pizza.
2 years where it has to be is Sam Besser.
Jeez.
Highly unnecessary.
28 months on a tier 3. You'll love to see that. Sam, thank you. Sam wouldn't ruin a good piece of pizza. He wouldn't. So for Chris Letang, the best thing we can really think to do here would be, again, we're allowed to use the old 85% trick. That would drop it down to 6.035. If Letang's willing to accept 6.25, that's a no-brainer. We're going to have to continue to negotiate with Letang. Knowing full right well that there would be a no-movement clause if we were to accept it. So, that is what we are going to do now. I don't think I have my old wheels saved, but it's pretty simple. It's just down to a yes or a no as to whether or not Letang would have a full no-movement clause. What is the answer? And the answer is yes. So if we sign Chris Letang, we would not be able to trade him for the duration of this contract, and I am good with that. I'm good with that. It basically means Letang's here for 2 years. I'm cool with letting Letang retire as a Penguin. So we will move forward with those negotiations there. Friedman has apparently jumped up to an 84. He's an RFA. There's no way we're signing him to that much money. So we will qualify Mark Friedman and wait to see what happens there. The no movement, no trade clause options are only for UFA deals, by the way. So we'll qualify Friedman. We will likely qualify P.O. Joseph. Yeah, we're qualifying P.O. Joseph as well. Oof. Oof. A lot of money being requested there between those two. So, aside from that, here's the issue, right? Again, I'm allowed 3 trades a year. Chad Ruedel, he's going to have to go. We have no space for him with the limitations that we have. We didn't play him this year. Ruedel's on the outs. Letang, Marino, Dumoulin, Friedman, Joseph, Matheson are all top 4. That's 6 people for 4 spots. Not to mention, Marcus Pettersson's in that conversation again as well as to where we could keep him. Offer sheets do not count as trades, so if someone gets offer sheeted, we're fine. So we have 7 people for 4 spots. Obviously, that is problematic. And we are going to have to look at some deals here. Pettersson can be dealt without restrictions. Matheson can be dealt. So we're going to have some decisions to make, but we will qualify those 2. Ruedel will be let go of. Taylor Fadoon doesn't want to come back. And because of that, we will let go of Taylor Fadoon. And honestly, that's something else that we're going to have as a rule. If they don't want to resign, they're gone. Unless, of course, they're an RFA. So, Taylor Fadoon will be gone. Why weren't you using Pettersson again? So we have a limit of we cannot play players below their role. So we have numerous top 4 defensemen. That means we only have 4 spots. So it forces us into tough decisions. Now, I don't have to immediately trade away Pettersson, but we sat him for the entirety of last year. So obviously the morale could be a factor. Juuso Riikola. We might bring back Riikola. I could see a reason to. Sam, what's going on, dude? It's going well, man. I'm having a blast with this. There's almost no reason to not bring back Riikola. It'll just be good for morale. But we can come to those decisions afterwards. We want to focus on the big decisions. For example, yeah, this is a problem. This is a problem. Brian Rust is up. He only wants 6 mil. The problem is, the least amount of years I can offer him is 5. I'd prefer 5 over 6, because 6 obviously brings him to 36. We have to decide what exactly is going to happen here. We have to make that decision. He would also be involved in a potential no movement clause situation. Evan Rodriguez, we did not use this year. He wants $4 million. He's technically a second liner now. Oh, fuck. All right, this is where we really have to focus in. We have to be smart and methodical about the moves that we make. So, next year, obviously, Crosby, Gensel, both on the top line. That's fine. Malkin, I do want to bring back, and I do think it's fair for the sake of the Penguins that we continue to use Gino in a second line role. He wants nothing. Dirt cheap deal. We'll obviously be bringing back Gino, and we'll run him again as our second line center. Like that, there's no doubt about it. We're bringing Gino back. So then there's Brian Rust, who's a second liner, right? There's Rodriguez, who is a second liner. Zucker's here no matter what, and he has to play on the second line, which means we only have 2 spots on the second line currently. Then there's Teddy Bluger, who is coming back and will be on the third line. Sorted myself a Series S. I have no idea when it will be delivered. Oof. It's understandable with the flooding issues, but Series S, man, it's not a bad console. Jeff Carter's down to a third liner, so we could look at bringing him back, but it's probably a risk. Then there's Kapanen, who's also a third liner, which, again, Kapanen was awful in the playoffs, just awful. Zach Aston Reese would also be a third liner if he comes back. Brian Boyle would also be a third liner if we were to bring him back. I feel like that would be a bit risky. We didn't play him this year. Brock McGinn is currently signed. Third line checking forwards cannot play the fourth line. If they're a third liner, they got to play the third line. So Brock McGinn, in theory, takes up one of those third line spots unless we trade him. It could be McGinn and Bluger. And then Simone's deal is up as well. He would be a fourth liner. So we have Simone factored in to the equation here. And then we get into the system. Danton Heinen's up. He's a third liner, but an RFA. If he resigns, that would force us into a trade. Valtteri Puistinen presumably will be an NHLer next year. We don't know yet. Sam Lafferty, also fourth line caliber. And then Sam Poulin, we don't know where he's going to be. Bjorkvist, we don't know. And then Drew O'Connor would also be a fourth liner if we bring him back. So you see the issues that we have here, where we really have to be smart. So if we look at the situation, we have 2 spots in the top 6, because we're going to keep Zucker most likely. Because again, I'm only allowed 3 trades a year. And that starts... God. It's a tough spot to say where that starts. Draft-wise, our previous rules were only being able to trade up for picks once. So we're in a rough spot there. But essentially, we're allowed 3 trades a year. I don't know how I want to say it starts. I kind of want to say that the draft is its own thing. JMR, thank you for the follow. So like 3 trades a year would be like regular season to playoffs, and then obviously I'm not going to completely blow up the team. We're going to have to be limited in what we do. If we look at pending free agents, no guarantee all these guys become free agents. But for first liners, Hurdle. Can you imagine frickin' Gensel, Crosby, Hurdle, for God's sakes? We have no space for Giroux. We have no space for... Well, I mean, technically we could use a left wing and play Zucker on the right. I mean, those are the first liners that are available. We know Malkin won't be available. We're going to bring him back. Robertson would be an RFA. So the only dudes we could naturally bring in for the first line are Goodrow, Bergeron, Giroux, Hurdle, which we might not even have the cap space for. And then second line, I mean, again, Rodriguez is ours for the moment. It's him and Rust. You got Perron, Strome, Pavelski, Besser would be an RFA. There's a lot of second liners. A lot. So the question would be whether or not really we want to bring back Evan Rodriguez. I think Brian Rust is a smart player to bring back. Makes a lot of sense. I'd want to get him for 5 years, even if we have to pay a little bit more. Fog of War I've already elected to turn off because of confusion with who has what X Factor. So Russ would be about 5'7", 5'7", for 5 years. I think that's fair. That does put him into no movement clause territory. It does indeed, and to be honest, I forgot to step with Letang as well. I'm good for that. I think I'm good with that. For Letang, since we know we'd have a no movement clause, it was a 2-year deal, which means we, again, have a follow-up wheel spin to decide whether or not it would be a full no movement clause or just for the first year. So this is for Letang. And it would only be for 1 year. Holy shit, that was close. So if Letang accepts that deal, it's a 2-year deal, and we would have to be loyal for 1 out of the 2 years. So we wouldn't be able to trade him this year. We would be able to trade him next year, which is okay. It's not too bad. With Brian Rust, it would be a similar thing as to whether or not we'd have a no movement clause for him. And then the question would be how many years of the 5. And I think I'm good. I think I'm good to send Brian Rust this deal. And if we end up having to stay loyal with a no movement, then we end up having to stay loyal for a no movement. So will there be a no movement clause for Brian Rust? Yes, That's fantastic. That's great news for us. So, I'm allowed to sign Brian Rust, and we can trade him away whenever we wanted, which is awesome. That is perfect. So again, yes, I have a full fucking list of rules here to the side. It's ridiculous. So, let's go ahead and send Brian Rust this deal, and we'll see if he accepts. Aside from that, we also wanted to send Gino a new deal. It would be a 1-year deal. And with the 85% option, it would be down to about $5 million even, which means there'd be a no trade clause factor, which I'm okay with. And again, yes, is this a little bit complicated? Sure. Does it make it more fun to have to stay loyal to players? Yes. So, first and foremost, would Evgeny Malkin end up with a no trade clause for this 1-year deal? Yes, he will. So that's where it gets a little bit more complicated. That is where it gets a little bit more complicated. So, with that, judging by the average NHL no trade clause, it's not like a full deal, but we spin between 3 and 25 teams, and what we do is go in reverse order of the standings at the time that we want to trade him. So basically, if it's like, oh, it's a 25-team no trade list, that means we can only trade him to what, the top 7 teams in the league, if we did elect to try and move him. And that is where it gets complicated. So if we were to resign Evgeny Malkin, the deal, the no trade clause, would be for 17 teams. So we couldn't trade him to essentially a team that's outside of the playoffs, which I feel like is completely fair. So that would be the situation for Malkin. Beautiful. So we're definitely going to we're going to do that for Malkin. That's fair as well. And then from there, I think we need to wait and see how certain things play out, maybe at the draft. The likes of Rodriguez, Carter, Kapanen. We're going to have some decisions to make. Smoking Ace, we swept the Minnesota Wild to win the Stanley Cup. So let's see. Any re-signings? Chris Letang is back. Beautiful. So he's back on a 2-year deal. We have to stay loyal for the first season. Then year 2, no restrictions. We can get rid of him if we're not in a playoff spot. So Chris Letang is back. Wolverine, I've been streaming for like over 4 years now, as crazy as that is. Evgeny Malkin is also back on a 1-year deal. He has a 17-team no trade, so if we're not in the playoffs, I basically have to trade him to a playoff team, which we would do anyway as a courtesy. And Brian Rust is also back. Again, a 5-year deal, and we lucked out. There is no restrictions. We avoided the idea of a no movement clause. As Sam Besser gifts a tier 3 sub to Flow Daddy. Mr. Besser, you're beautiful. Thank you, buddy. Again, it's nice that you've been able to hang around a bit more now that I've changed up the time. Sam, appreciate it greatly, buddy. YouTube, I started before. Yeah, YouTube I've been doing since like 2016 or some shit like that. It's crazy. Maybe even 2015, which is nuts. So, we're looking good. We are looking good. Shout out, Sam. I will. If only you were a good mod and you could do it. I don't even think it lets you do it. But yeah, Sam streams from time to time as well. Drop him a follow. Twitch.tv/Sam, S-A-M, Besser, spelled like Brock Besser. All right, so we're in a pretty good spot here. I do want to move ahead before we re-sign anybody else, but our big business has already been taken care of as the Anaheim Ducks win the Shane Wright sweepstakes. Poor Los Angeles. Arizona also moves up. That is a disaster for the Kings, who were terrible this year, and a huge win for their California rivals. That was beautiful. So we'll get a look at retired players here. Patrick Marleau calls it a career after signing with Chicago. Hall of Famer. Matt Molson retires. Korpikoski. Nate Thompson. Flyers fans everywhere rejoice. Cal O'Reilly, Adam Cracknell. Oilers legend, Linus Ullmark. Defensively, Nate Prosser, Kyle Kaminsky are gone. And in goal, Jeff Glass, as per usual, retires at the end of Season 1. Boss, depends on if you're on mobile or not. As Nate Thompson becomes a scout. And that brings us to the draft. So right here, before we even get into this, I do need to set the limits on what we can do in terms of trading. Because I want there to be a limitation. I'm on PC. In chat, there should be a little option right in the chat box to click on a little diamond. If I'm not mistaken. Because obviously, like normally I want to do the, and Wolverine, thank you for the bits there. I do want to have limitations on how much I can trade. I like the idea of 3 trades in a regular season. You could say that also includes deadline. But at the draft, now I do have a limitation. I think I'm going to do 3 trades in the regular season and 3 trades in the off season, barring any sort of circumstances like, oh, I have to get rid of somebody. Boss, thank you for the 100 bits as well. And what I mean by that is if like I find out like, oh, I have too many third liners, I have to get rid of somebody, I could just ditch them along with the 7th for a 7th. That type of thing. Or I just play them in the minors like we did this year. So I think 3 trades at the draft. I do have a limitation. Robin, thank you as well. Boss with more bits, you're beautiful. The 400 bits total in the past 30 seconds. Boss, thank you. Lovely 14-month subscriber here. To finish that point, in the draft, I can only trade up once or go down once. So that would be one of my deals anyway. So we have a limitation on what we can do. But of course, I am not allowed to make a single selection in this draft, as our punishment for not accomplishing any of our regular season goals is that it is a full AI draft. But looking then at what's available, Wolverine, the 500 bits, you love to see it. The only team that wants to trade right now in the top 10, or the top 6 really, is Winnipeg. Just have Dallas and Philly that are up there. Wolverine, thank you guys for the bits. Thank you for the resubs, the gifted subs. You guys are nuts. You're nuts. So really quickly with this team, a Stanley Cup winning team. As Wolverine with more bits. You're far too kind. In terms of what we might want to do, holy shit, Mark Friedman's value is through the roof right now. Again, top 4 defensemen. It's Pettersson to Friedman. Joseph's listed as a top 6, and that probably won't sustain. Letang, Marino, Dumoulin are signed. Friedman as an RFA with that value. It might be worth trading him and trying to move up with that value, because that value is way overinflated right now. And then we keep Pettersson, and then potentially ditch Pettersson if we have to for P.O. Joseph. Forward-wise, Crosby, Malkin, Gensel. Again, Malkin's the one exception who can play on the second line. And then we have all these third liners, which will include like an RFA and Kasperi Kapanen. He doesn't have the most value in the world. The big decision here is what to do with those defenders. Who is Winnipeg interested in? And also, how many draft picks do we have? Okay. So, normally when I'm in control of the draft, we're going to have a maximum of 7 picks per draft. We can have less, obviously. I think it might, obviously we have pick 32. I think it might be worth trying to trade up here with Winnipeg because we have high value dudes who we don't want to re-sign for fucking $6 million. You could argue hold out and see if we get an offer sheet. The Ducks are going to make this pick. Roster sharing will be available in 1 week. Let's see. Anaheim. Take Shane Wright. Surprise, surprise. So Winnipeg, for my 1 trade-up pick. They do have interest in Friedman, which is huge. And that looks like it might be able to get it done on its own. Would it make sense for the Jets to acquire a defenseman such as Friedman? No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't make sense. I'd screw them over so bad because of their cap. I'd screw them over so badly. They don't really have room for another top 4 defenseman. They don't have the cap space. I certainly wouldn't want to take back that Josh Morrissey deal, and another top 4 defenseman wouldn't help me. Like, we'd acquire a top 4 defenseman and then still have to ship out another top 4 or 2. The deal doesn't necessarily make sense. So again, like, to get the pick would be great, but I'd totally fuck him over defensively, and I'm not going to screw over the AI. The Dallas Stars have pick number 9. Do the Dallas Stars have a need for a defenseman like Friedman? Well, maybe. It would be a lot of money thrown at defenders, but Suter's on a relatively cheap deal. Klingberg's not even making that much, but Klingberg's on an expiring deal. I don't want to sign him because it might... I don't want to send him that way because it might screw up their negotiations with Klingberg. But you could argue maybe they'd look at him instead of Klingberg, because at least he's an RFA and they can control that deal. Dallas does make a little bit of sense. Then the other team I'd be interested in would be sending him back to Philadelphia. But I also don't think I'd want to help out Philadelphia by sending them a half-decent defenseman, even if he's asking for more money than he is worth. They don't have room. I mean, they have Braun on an expiring deal, Yandel and Russo. I guess, well, technically Philly does have room. Philly and Dallas both have room for him. Obviously, Dallas would be the better preference. Again, his value is just so high. He's looking for $6 million. As some generated guy named Boma goes to Arizona. So the only, again, if we were to trade up once in this draft, it would make sense for it to be now. It would make sense for it to be Friedman, because he's looking for $6 million bucks. So is Joseph, but Joseph's 22. Friedman is 26. And that value will never be higher than it is now. It's inflated after a good season. That value will never be higher than it is right now. And I think we have to make the most of it. Now, you could argue it's an overinflated value, but he is an 84. And an RFA defenseman, when they're probably going to lose Klingberg, it's not a complete rip-off of a deal. We would have to take somebody back in the deal. I'm not allowed to take more than 1 draft pick back, so it would be the 9th only. And the question is, who would I get back in the deal? And to be honest, it would just have to be a guy. You could argue, like, Pavelski's signing rights. Andre Sekera, like, tack him on just to ditch him. I'd love to keep Friedman, but for $4 million bucks, and with how much of a logjam for defense, or $6 million bucks, I should say, and with how much of an issue we have defensively, that's a problem. I wouldn't mind taking Pavelski. I mean, Joe Pavelski to be our other top 6 winger instead of Evan Rodriguez, depending on what Pavelski wants, could be good. Radulov as well. That's a fair shout. Radulov would be cheaper. Oof, Radulov or Pavelski. Man, having Radulov next to Malkin. Whew. Oh, the Russians. But Pavelski at the same time is sick. He's a great net front presence. No, Cody, it wouldn't, because our roster's not set in stone yet. I have room for one more top 6 option right now. It's either Evan Rodriguez, a free agent, or maybe one of these two. What if we... Again, I like Radulov, but Pavelski while he might be expensive, is so sick. So it would be Friedman, along with the signing rights to Joe Pavelski, the 9th overall pick. If I'm going to add Pavelski, I almost want to add more to the deal as another computer-generated player goes. Again, if I'm only allowed a limited amount of trades, too, we got to make the most of it. And this could be a good way to recoup some assets here. So if we look, again, I'd love to keep Friedman, but as an RFA, he's way too expensive. Matheson. We could get rid of him. I don't really know yet. Pettersson, again, we still have to sort out that defense. We could send them Kasperi Kapanen, and I think that would be a pretty fair deal. I love Cappy, but while he was just okay in the regular season, he had 3 points in 22 playoff games. He's also an RFA. This could be where we decide to move on from Kapanen or Brock McGinn. Both of whom could be third-liners for us this next season. Danton Heinen as well, who's an RFA that we didn't play at all this past year, could also be used. We definitely have other people in the deal to sweeten it a little bit. Not that we have to, but I feel like we should. And then, of course, Aston Reese is up. So if we have Bluger, third-liners, I mean, Carter, Kapanen, Aston Reese, Boyle. I'm not going to add McGinn because I feel like we should have to give up more to get rid of Brock McGinn because that contract is shit. So here could be the signing rights for Heinen, Aston Reese, or Kapanen. Aston Reese, I believe, is a UFA, though. They're interested in Danton Heinen. I don't think we're going to use Danton Heinen at 26. Dallas would still have too many players, which is okay. But we use Friedman. Send him Danton Heinen, a usable roster player. And we could also... Again, it doesn't make sense to send them another defenseman. Like, they only really have room for one defenseman. Could I also go... I mean, Drew O'Connor's there. Chad Ruedel, I'd love to get rid of as well. God, this deal's about to go through. Or that trade. That's okay, though. Okay, I think I know what I want to do. I think it's going to be Friedman, Heinen, and Rodriguez for the 9th and Pavelski. So basically, as Brad Lambert goes to Ottawa, basically, we're giving them a bunch of RFAs that they can select what to do with. Pavelski is likely to hit the open market. Then we get that 9th pick that they want to get rid of anyway. I think that's the deal. So we'll add Friedman. We will add Danton Heinen. And we will also add another RFA in Evan Rodriguez. If I'm not mistaken, all three are RFAs. It would give them good roster control to maneuver things around a little bit. Like I said, I really want to make these deals worth their while. And since it's an AI draft, for the hell of it, we'll also give them a 4th. And we'll have to take back some random dudes, which is fine. Andre Sekera, Blake Como, and then we'll cut them both. So it's Pavelski's signing rights and the 9th overall pick. They get Friedman, who's off of a great season, but a pricey RFA. Danton Heinen, RFA, and Evan Rodriguez, an RFA, both of whom we didn't use last year, and a 4th. I feel like that's fair. The big price point is Friedman for the 9th. And it would help Dallas be more competitive now. I don't think we're going to use Heinen. I don't think we're going to use Rodriguez. Pavelski could outright replace Rodriguez. And it makes sense to get rid of some dudes that we didn't use. So I think that is a winning deal. And there we go. So we trade up. That's the one trade up I'm allowed to do. We get the 9th overall pick. I'm not allowed to select who we pick with it. So let's hope the AI does okay because of our punishment from failing our regular season goals. So Buffalo gets Matthew Savoy. Winnipeg at 6, who we tried to acquire that pick. They get your Slavkovsky. Detroit at 7 takes Miroshnichenko. And Calgary at 8 gets Daniil Yurov. So, as Hawk hits us up with the 16 months on the prime, again, we have no scouting department either, so if there was ever a time for this punishment, this was it. But Joachim Kamel is there. Simon Nemec is there. Maybe it goes with like Jokinen, Blomdahl, or Yarosek. I mean, we're going to get somebody good. I'm personally hoping for Kamel, but we'll see what the AI does here. Who will we be taking? It is Joachim Kamel. All right, so a 70 overall, high top 6. Someone who by the end of the year, with how well he's done in real life, could end up being a medium elite. But not bad. Not bad. They go for the forward. And let's be honest, we need forward prospects. We need prospects of all types. So the AI makes a pretty good call there. So we have one trade in the books. I think that might be the only trade that we make. Because now that we've gotten rid of Friedman, defensively, we still don't know. Right now we have 4 top 4s, and then Matheson and Joseph are both third pair. If they stay third pair, our defense is set. If they develop, like Joseph probably will, to a top 4, that causes some issues. So like Chad Ruhwedel could be dealt, but eh. And then forward-wise, Malkin, Crosby, Gensel, Rust, Pavelski, and Zucker will likely... Actually, if Zucker's down to the third line, that changes things. That changes things. Zucker is down to a third liner. Ruhwedel we don't have to buy out. He's on an expiring deal. So we still have a lot of moving parts here as to what we're going to do with this team. You're not wrong. Matheson's contract is terrible. But we also need to make sure that there's... You know, if we get rid of him but there's nobody better, then we might as well just keep him. So, man, Zucker right now being listed in a third-line role really changes the outlook of this team. Maybe it would have made some sense to keep Evan Rodriguez. I think for now, we're okay. Joseph's an RFA. I agree, I'd love to get rid of that Matheson contract or the Pettersson contract. But I think for now, we're all right. So let's sim. We have the first pick of the second round. Or actually, no, we don't. We kept our first round pick. That's right, we did keep our first round pick there. We are allowed to have 2 picks in the same round. It's no more than 2 picks in the same round. So we did keep our first, which is fine. Let's see how the rest of this round just goes. So Blom. So yeah, see, case in point, the AI could have taken Blomdahl. I probably would have as a computer-generated player. That's a gigantic miss. Nemec was it was better to go Kamel. Then you have Geeky, and then Jokinen went to Arizona because the AI doesn't know what the hell to do with computer-generated players. So Arizona and Philadelphia, big winners. For Rhoda, New Jersey, Yarosek to Columbus, goes Shea to the Islanders, Seamus Casey to the Sharks, Stromberg, Chesley, Howard, and again, a lot of these guys are just kind of similar. It's more down to really getting the AI to hopefully draft more for a position of need, just because we are so early into the draft year, essentially, where we've yet to see a ton of separation in the rankings. So let's see who the AI will take here with our second pick of the round. I'd be good with Solomonson or Luno to get a defenseman. I mean, odds are it's going to be a defenseman. So let's see who it is. And the answer is Elias Solomonson, so not bad. He's got a long way to go, but he's okay. The CPU prospects are already on low. This is just what happens anyway. There's only so much you can neutralize it. So our next pick is at the end of the second round. Again, for those who are really into prospects, I will at least scroll through this and you can look at it in your own time a little bit more in depth. Oh, wow, that sucks. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Hey, look, a Swede goes to Detroit. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Oh, good, and Montreal took another Petrie. You can never have enough. You can never have enough Petries. on your roster, you know? Well, that sucks. What do you mean by rule heavy? We have restrictions to make things more difficult and slightly more realistic. What a draft pick by the New York Islanders. Zach Toms. Goddamn. Goddamn, what a pick for them. All right, who will, again, it's an AI draft because of our punishment for failing our regular season goals. And the computer takes Graham Sword, which honestly I'm good with. I mean, he's a 71, medium 6. That's a pretty good pick. That's a pretty good pick indeed. A really good junior level player. And, most importantly, can play both sides on defense. That's huge. That's a really good pick for us at the end of the second round. I like that. I like that a lot. Dual position players are so important to us, as we don't have another pick until round 5. Overager or not, he's already a good OVR. So I'm very good with that pick. And I mean, based off of the OVRs coming up here afterwards, we did very well there. We did very well indeed. So, oh, Del Bell Blues goes to Ottawa. Boo. From Washington, Nashville. Let's see, 4th round. Bateau. So obviously, like a lot of the dudes who are draft eligible, like they might not end up being the greatest. Wow, Max Nemesnikov fell. So did that Bowman guy. Well, we bumped up a lot of these guys to medium 9, medium top 6. Like, make the in-game players who are already there more usable. It's not like they're superstars, but it's more fun that way. So, I'm quite happy with this. You're going to see a lot more of these guys actually show up in franchise, whether it's in the AHL or the NHL, instead of just being free agent list fodder. Shout out to Bryce McMuffin. Good old Bryce McMuffin. Good pickup there for Montreal. Medium 6 in the 5th round. Not bad. Not bad at all. Uh-oh. I'm going to see why the... Hen dog! Puppy! Why you whining? Come here! Medium league goalie for Colorado. Almost said Calgary. Oasis Weissblatt to Washington. I got a Bryce McMuffin meal with a large coffee, right? Ty Brennan on the way. Let's see who the AI takes for us here in round number 5. Andreas Athanasiou has been dealt to the Jets, by the way. Again, you got to remember trades are on. Woo! Dude, the AI is just crushing this right now. For you. I'm going to go with Retep. Thank you for the follow. Mark Pissick was also dealt to the Islanders, but we get Kalinin. Not bad.
Oh, good.
Not bad at all. Raul Boa with the follow as well. Low 666. 5th rounder Kalinin as a power forward. That's not bad at all. I mean, as much of a punishment as this is, it's also working out pretty well. So, again, yeah, low 6 there for Lazowski. Phil Bysted falls to the 6th round. Dude named Zandy, Daniil Zhilkin. Good old Braden Holt, favorite name in the upcoming draft. Gravel goes. We're seeing some goalies off the board now. Low 465 to Montreal. Let's see, anybody else? Savoy. Definitely getting some low 6s falling down the board here. A medium late defenseman, Alexi to Vegas, but he's only a 50. And round 6. Who will we get before the Mr. Irrelevant pick? The AI draft stuff. Schnattinger? Schnattinger. Michael Schnattinger. It's a goalie. 53 overall. Schnattinger. Schnattinger. That's a name. That's a name and a half. Jesus. AI knows we like the best names, right? I mean, we could have had Brett Brochu. That would have been nice, even though he's... Oh, we could have had Tucker Tynan, but he goes to Calgary. Good story there. Postma is meh. Shout out to Munson for the win. Brendan Moore goes to Chicago. Hey, Trevor Wong, the medium elite legend, gets drafted. And the Mr. Irrelevant pick will be Shodin, who is a medium AHL top 6. So that was our draft. Was it worth trading? Was it worth trading Friedman to get Kamel? Probably. Just because Friedman's asking price was astronomical. We do have coaches with expiring deals. I will handle that in a minute by signing the worst coaches we can because we haven't earned the right to good coaches. So if we look here at the rest of this setup, Casey DeSmith, again, we know is out. He wants out anyway. Joel Blomqvist, we will probably end up signing, as well as Callie Klang. We are going to let go of Louis Domingue. Diorio was good last year, and honestly is probably worth signing just as a 5th goalie. It'll be good for morale, so we'll qualify him. Let's sign Blomqvist to his ELC. We'll sign Callie Klang to his ELC, and then technically we could use another goalie, but it's not a necessity. Defenseman. Again, we got to see how this all shakes out. We are going to qualify P.O. Joseph. Wow. Maybe we made a mistake in trading Friedman. Now, Friedman was 2 overall points higher, but Friedman was looking for 6. So was Joseph. Joseph's number has dropped from 6 to 2. So you could argue maybe it would have been worth keeping Friedman, but again, if Friedman and Joseph both end up as medium top 4, we know we're locked in with Letang, Marino, and Dumoulin. So that means we'd have to look at still trading either Pettersson, Matheson, Joseph. We'd have 4 guys and only be able to keep 1. Instead, now we have 3 guys and might only be able to keep 1, which would mean Matheson and Pettersson getting dealt. So I think we're okay. And we made the right choice. Chad Ruedel has dropped to a medium top 6. That's interesting. We picked up Andre Sekera as an add-on with the Dallas deal, so we'll drop him. Taylor Fadoon's down to a medium top 2. There could be an argument to sign Chad Ruedel. There could be. Again, Letang, Marino, Dumoulin. But if Pettersson stays top 4 and Matheson and Joseph stay top 6, there's no room for Ruedel. So we got to let go of Ruedel for now. I would keep Taylor Fadoon. He doesn't want to re-sign. So Taylor Fadoon is going to be let go. We will keep Juuso Riikola for the chemistry. I'll give him the money he wants, but only on a 1-year deal. We'll keep Riikola for the chemistry. Cam Lee, we might as well keep for an extra year, again for the chemistry. Because I don't really think we're going to be able to sign more than like 1 good prospect. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. We'll have room for like 1 good prospect. So basically all of our RFAs we're going to keep for another year. Because we don't want morale to screw up too much. I mean, we could make the AHL team better, but we're going to keep all those RFAs, even a guy like Masonius, who is never going to be anything. Because we're not signing like Beliveau until next year, or Graham Sword for a few years. For the forwards, the Joe Pavelski contract is the interesting one. Crazy, we could do that. We'll see what happens. All right, so for forwards in general, it's best to look at the entire picture here. We do want to re-sign Joe Pavelski, and he wants to stay. Oh, man, he's looking for a steal of a deal, too. All right. We are definitely going to try to re-sign Joe Pavelski. Definitely. Definitely. That looks like it was a good decision. We could drop this down. We could give him a little bit less, but I'm going to go 4.25. So for that, we would have to offer him a no-trade clause. But, we, number one, there wouldn't be a guarantee. So let's see, really quickly. Joe Pavelski, no trade clause. Come on, no. Okay, that's not the worst. And how many teams, if we were to send this deal through? Only a 4-team no trade. Oh yeah, that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. So, if we do sign Joe Pavelski to this deal, it would be, basically we just couldn't send him to the bottom 4 teams in the NHL, which is fine. So we'll definitely offer Joe Pavelski that deal to be in our top 6 this year. We will indeed. So, It's likely to be Crosby, Gensel, Rust, Pavelski with Malkin. That left-hand side we don't know yet because Zucker has dropped down to be a third liner, right? Hello, Richard Head. How are we today? So Zucker's a third liner, Bluger's a third liner, which automatically means they're on the team. Which means what do we do with Kasperi Kapanen, who's a third liner? We're obviously going to qualify him. Potentially could have, maybe should have traded him. But at the very least, we will qualify Kasperi Kapanen. He's not looking for that much. So Cappy will likely be the right wing on that team. Unless we play Gensel, Crosby, Pavelski, Rust, Malkin, Kapanen. Which could be done. Jeff Carter could still stay on the third line. Aston Reese could stay on the third line. We do have to say goodbye to Brian Boyle. There's no space for him. We didn't even play him last year. So Boyle's out. Blake Como was a tack-on in the Dallas deal. He's going to be out. Dominic Simone as a fourth liner could stay. Sam Lafferty as a fourth liner could stay. We definitely need to qualify Kasper Bjorkqvist. Michael Chaput, I don't know yet. And then Drew O'Connor has actually dropped to a minor league checking forward. So we'll hold on to Drew O'Connor for the moment. He might bounce back. Anthony Angelo. Again, I'm not sure. Rich, I didn't, but I'll name I'll name every coach Richard Head, and it'll be great. We'll qualify Bellerive, Draws, Galmeda, just for the sake of chemistry or morale. Lucas Veshkovsky, we definitely have to qualify. We'll sign Ansons. Did Lafferty not want to stay? You're right. All right, so yeah, Lafferty's out. All right, Sam. Well, Sam, you had great moments in round one. But you're right. Sam Lafferty doesn't want to stay. He'll go. If you're a UFA and you want out, you're out. That's it. Let's see what else we have here. Okay. Let's move forward a day. Joe Pavelski does reject the deal, which is okay. Riikola also rejects. Rivas Christians Ansons signs. Kelly Klang signs. Blomqvist. Okay. So defensively, Riikola still says he wants to stay. If I offer him $1 million, even then, you could argue Riikola for that price isn't worth it, especially because he could be easily claimed on waivers. So we're gonna say goodbye to Juuso Riikola. I tried to keep him, but he wasn't really willing to play ball, and nobody seems upset about it. So forward-wise, then the big deal is still Joe Pavelski. Which, honestly, I could nickel and dime this. I'm willing to offer him $5 million for the year. You could arguably go 4.5, but I think $5 million for Joe is okay because we're not going to have a ton of money to send out anyway once we're in free agency. So that still keeps him on the same deal. 4-team, no trade. 4.25 is where it goes up to no movement. So we'll see if Joe signs that. I still don't know about Carter. I still don't know about Aston Reese, Dominic Simone, Michael Chaput. Honestly, again, we could just keep Chaput and Angelo for the chemistry here. I feel like that's fair. We'll offer him $900K, and then Anthony Angelo will qualify. Let's sim another day. All right, Joe Pavelski has signed. Beautiful. So we ended up getting Pavelski and a 9th overall pick out of that. Chaput is signed as well. So again, goalie-wise, we're just waiting for Diorio to accept the qualifying offer. Bunch of qualifying offers on defense, but no major ones to worry about outside of P.O. Joseph. And then for the forwards, we have to make a decision about that third line. Presumably, Kasperi Kapanen stays. which means he's in the middle 6. Which means we could keep Jeff Carter. We could keep Aston Reese. I think with Dominic Simone. Hello, puppy. You finally showed up. Hello. Can't wait to see Friedman's deal. I'm scared it's going to be decent. Hi, puppy. Oh, shut that a little bit more. God. Hi, pups. What are you doing? Come here. Are you coming up? What are you doing? Hi. What's wrong? Come here. I mean, you're not high up enough to be on camera, but that's okay. Show us the dog. I mean, you can see her. Her head's right there. I didn't think she'd be in frame, but she's in frame. She's good. Huh. Who's the puppus? The puppus. It's the puppus. Hi. You will get a W after I'm done. Thank you. Thank you very much. She's got an itchy back. That's okay. We'll just have to focus. So yeah, Dominic Simone for the 4th line. He's useful in that he can play both wings. And we don't really have anybody set up now for the 4th line outside of Dominic Simone. But we could look to get better than what we have there. It's just the 3rd line of Carter. Well, God, Zucker's on the team. So yeah, I guess Zucker stays. I guess we're set then. If Kapanen is staying, we have to decide between Jeff Carter and Zach Aston Reese and Brock McGinn. So Jeff Carter wants $2 million. That's puppy, calm down. You're okay. I'm almost done here. Aston Reese wants $2 million for at least 2 years minimum. And then, God, yeah, we already have McGinn signed to the deal that he signed to. Emmy, what's the matter? I gotta make this decision. I won't remember heading into tomorrow. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I think it's safe to say Jeff Carter's gone, right? I think he's the easy one to cut out because he could drop from an 82. So we are going to say goodbye to Jeff Carter. People won't be happy about that, but it is what it is. Yeah, Letang's not happy. Malkin's not happy. I'm sorry, boys, but it had to be done. So then basically it's, do we sign Aston Reese with the sole plan of getting rid of Brock McGinn? I mean, Aston Reese would be on a better deal than McGinn. He's more usable as well. But that's the problem. If we commit to trading Brock McGinn, that's one of our trades for the season, right? Because I had the draft be different. So right now, we're in that time. I'm thinking 3 trades, including up to the deadline. Dominic Simone would be one of them. Or, excuse me, Brock McGinn would be one of them, which we'd probably have to try to tack him on to one of our defender deals as well, and that's a lot of cap. That's a lot of cap to move. I am going to cut Dominic Simone. I want to improve that 4th line. That'll piss off some people. I just don't know what to do with Aston Reese because, man, he only had 20 points in the regular season on the 3rd line. He had 22 points in over 100 games last year. He's so good defensively, but that offense, man, it's just not there. That's the big decision at this point, is what to do with Zach Aston Reese. Kapanen's only staying because he's an RFA. I just don't know if I want to use up one of our trades in that situation, you know? I don't know. We don't know what McGinn can do in terms of points. I mean, can McGinn put up 20 points? I'd like to think so. I mean, he's about the same offensively. He's just more physical. Got $10 million in cap space. Honestly, I think it's probably worth the risk. It's probably worth the risk. But that takes up $2 million. We have about $11 million in cap space heading into free agency. You know? I think we're going to try to keep him. I think we're going to try to keep Aston Reese. The other ones that made sense to let go of, the Jeff Carters and company. If he'll accept 2x2, that's a pretty good deal. I keep forgetting I don't have to back out. He won't take 2x2. Okay. Still wants to re-sign. Will you take the 205? Still rejects. Bellerive, Almeida, Almari, Diorio, Draws, Drew O'Connor, Cam Lee, Will Riley, Masonius, Irola. They all sign as RFAs. I think Aston Reese is pushing his luck a little bit. You know, like, what are we going to do? 2.1. 225 for Aston Reese, which still isn't that bad. Yeah, he's the last contract we have to worry about. If he won't accept 2.2, he's out. Kapanen's back. Aston Reese signs for 2.2. Okay. So not too bad in terms of what we had to sign Aston Reese for. That leaves us $7 million in cap space. In terms of RFAs, it's just Angelo and Joseph. And we have so much contract control with P.O. Joseph that I don't have to bend here. I can just wait it out. So free agency. We are allowed one major signing per position. It can either be a high overall player or a high potential player. It is one or the other. In terms of goals, goalars, I should say, obviously we're good. Like, we're not, man, Jack Campbell's looking for $9.2 million. Like, we're not going to look for anybody major here because we still have Jari for the year and we have Lindbergh. And I don't think it's a good idea to spend that much money on Jack Campbell. You know? But in terms of goalie prospects, the Habs were dumb enough to let go of Caden Primo. So that is our guy. As nice as Sawchenko, Melnichuk, Thompson would be, the Habs decided that they didn't want Caden Primo anymore. So that'll be our defensive target. It would only be a one-way deal, which is a little bit scary. I'm going to go $1 million for 1 year because he'd still be an RFA. Push Diorio out, as it should. He sucks. Like, future-wise, he sucks. He was good last year. I mean, again, we can sign someone the likes of Caden Primo. We should go for it. Defensively, I don't think we have room for anybody defensively, let's be honest. Klingberg did end up hitting the open market. So did Giordano, Lindholm, Nick Holden, and others. But again, we already know defensively we signed somebody. I mean, we're pretty much already guaranteed a trade. We sign somebody else, then we're definitely guaranteed a trade. Which would also suck. I mean, we need depth defenders, but we can sign those later. Yeah, let's just go ahead and commit to looking at defensive prospects instead. Oof, Liljegren's there. There's no way we're going for Liljegren, though. As an RFA, he'd be way too expensive. Yeah, way too expensive. Urho Vakanainen's out there as an RFA. But there's no guarantees that we'd get him. He also wants $1.4 million as a 75, so that's probably not the best investment. UFA-wise, Brennan Manel. Riker Evans is there. Scott Perunovich is there. William Wallander is let go by Detroit. Okay, we're only allowed one of these guys. Riker Evans might be the smart move here. Let's be honest, it's either Evans or Perunovich. I mean, Wallander will be where Evans is now. Wallander does have the good skating on him, though. I'm really leaning towards Perunovich because will Evans go up 5 points? Perunovich could be our instant call-up. Like, man, there's a chance Perunovich could end up being a depth defenseman for next year, and that would be pretty nice. Do we have any high sixes? We do have a couple. Emil Andre. Just a really good passing. 20 and a 69. Wilsby's a 71 at 21. So, I mean, it's Andre, 20 years old, 69 overall. Andre's ahead of Wallander. He is behind Evans. I mean, Perunovic murdered the AHL last year. Murdered it. It's a tough call. Definitely rules out Urho Vakanainen. Oh, man. I mean, Perunovic could go top 6. You're not wrong. It might not be the worst thing in the world, though. Wallander has that gold X factor. Well, I mean, fair, but we also had a high 6 who was about as good. Wallander would be more of a long-term investment. All right, you know, there's a lot of support for Wallander. Let's see if we can get him. I don't know why the hell Detroit didn't sign him. And then for forwards, in terms of RFAs, Fiala, Kubalik, Olofsson, a lot of dudes there that we're not interested in as RFAs. UFA-wise, though, again, the big names that are out there, Hurdle, Bergeron, Giroux. Getting Claude Giroux in a Penguins uniform would be hilarious. In terms of prospects, there is Matty Phillips, but For medium 6s, do we have anybody that's younger? Mateos, not looking so good. So nobody major here. Killinen. There is Emil Heineman, who the Panthers didn't sign. 67 overall at 20 years old. And then for high 9s, Ronnie Hirvonen is a 70 at 20 years old. Theodore Niederbach. Man, Detroit just decided to let go of a bunch of prospects. So there are some good prospects. There's not that slam dunk, absolutely have to get that guy prospect. Again, if we look at our forward lines right now, the first line is pretty much right there. And then the second line is likely Rust Malkin. And maybe we could sign another second liner, but then the third line would automatically guarantee that we got to get rid of somebody. Whereas right now, obviously, like Zucker or Bluger, Aston Reese McGinn could even be on the second line. It might still be more beneficial to go for a prospect here instead of a big name, just because we already have so many deck chairs to shuffle. But man, Claude Giroux on that asking price. Holy hell. Holy hell, Claude Giroux on that asking price. I think we have to go for him. A third liner can play on the second line, but a second liner cannot play on the third line. I think we have to go for Claude Giroux. As shitty as it is, like, hey, we're the Penguins, but Washington's in on him too. A 1-year deal worth $6 million for Giroux. I don't care if he has a no movement clause or not. I think we have to do it. We have to. So will Claude Giroux have a no movement clause if we go through with this deal? No, we won't. So that is a 1-year deal for Giroux. We could deal him if we're trash. We have to do that. Joseph's not even looking for that much money. And as it is, we pretty much know we're going to have to move somebody anyway, so that's where Joseph's money comes in. I feel confident about this. We at least have to extend an offer. So that is all I can do in terms of free agency. At least until August 1st, and then I'm allowed to go crazy. We do have to sign a couple of dudes. And unfortunately, it's going to be pretty bad. It's going to be pretty bad. I don't know why NHL assistant coach is down there. Salba confirms McGinn is gone. Probably. Let's try to sign Angelo Sigalet. Because again, we need 2 coaches per. We'll go AHL coach. And sign Alex Cochran, maybe? I don't know why this guy is so popular, but okay. And I'm also going to need an associate or an assistant. And we might as well go for Cesar Letang. Alright, so that takes care of that. Because again, we do need a bare minimum when it comes to coaches. So let's see what happens here. If Giroux ends up signing. So we ended up getting Sigalet. Ended up getting Cochran. And Letang. William Wallander has signed, which is beautiful. By the way, I did forget to look at trades from the draft. Brett Connolly went to Nashville, along with a 4th for a 2nd and a 3rd. And Seattle acquired Frank Nazar, a 2nd and a 3rd, for Chris Dreger, a 3rd and a 4th. That happened in free agency, so the trades that we may have missed in draft. But those were the big trades at the start of free agency. Caden Primo has signed with us. That's tremendous. So we're 2 for 2 so far. And now here we go. Claude Giroux. Stays in Pennsylvania. We get all 3 of our targets, which is fantastic. Even if that ends up making things a little bit interesting, we'll see what happens now. We'll see what happens moving forward. In terms of the other moves, signings, Boston brings back Frank Vatrano, Mark Stahl to St. Louis, Bjugstad to Vancouver, Galchenyuk to Carolina, Goligoski to New Jersey. Thanks, I hate it. Well, you know. Trocheck and Maroon to Nashville, Kessel and Nichushkin to Colorado, Lindholm to Buffalo, Klingberg to the Islanders, Hurdle goes to Seattle, Scott Perunovich to Columbus, Jack Johnson to Montreal for 2 years, Zadorov to Vancouver, so Jennings still there. We have Bushkin on the move, Stetcher, Mark Pysyk, Goodbranson to the Blues. Of course, the Bruins signed Russell, Kadri to the Flyers, Strome to the Stars. Those are the moves so far. Speaking of which, we will look at the Dallas Stars to see what Friedman signed for, as has been requested. 5.975 for Friedman. For 6x5. I think we made the right choice. I think we made the right choice. That'd be a very difficult deal to move if we had to. So, we will sim out the rest of the month. And then as of August 1st is when I can pounce on the remaining free agents. Let's see. Radulov to Winnipeg. Giordano to the Devils. Robert Haig back with Philly. Calle Yarncroc. Zach Parise. Matt Irwin to the Flyers. Jesus. Turris to St. Louis. Ristolainen to Columbus. Murray to Washington. Jack Campbell goes to Arizona. Como to Boston. Edler to Seattle. Kubalik stays in Chicago. Subban to Washington. So we'll have to be on slewfoot alert from one of our biggest rivals. Still nothing from P.O. Joseph, but that's okay. That is okay. One of the deals have happened here. Chad Rowito went to the Coyotes. Andre Palat to Carolina. Andrew Kopp to Columbus. Jeff Carter goes back to the Kings for 2 years. Ronaldo to Chicago. Liljegren may have been offer sheeted by Buffalo. We're about to get an answer on that. Bozak to the Islanders. That's the most loose signing ever. Lafferty ended up in Montreal. Boyle ended up in Seattle, along with a bunch of other people. Rodriguez to Anaheim. Brad Hunt ended up in Boston. Melka Korpusov to the Blue Jackets. Ennis to Carolina. Carolina's been busy. Clutterbuck stays with the Islanders. Josh Manson to Nashville. Ho-Sang to Seattle. Victor Olofsson stays with Buffalo. And there have been a lot of deals. Spezza and Mojo to the Rangers. I'm excited to see what these rosters look like heading into the start of Season 2. That's definitely something we'll look at. Alright, so let's go to August 1st. And as of that day, we are allowed to sign whoever we want. Anthony Angelo finally accepts his qualifying offer. Don't know why the fuck he waited for so long. FJ, what's happening? We do have some other trades as well. Brett Howden for Michael Del Zotto, essentially. Del Zotto was dealt twice. Derek Ryan for Radim Shimmick. Been some weird deals so far. And then what else do we have in terms of signings? Dustin Brown to the Islanders. That's on brand. Sanford to the Stars. Butcher to the Rangers. Kasha to Buffalo. Sutter stays with Vancouver. Janmark to Boston. Roslovich to Florida. Bobby Ryan to Chicago. Schultz to Ottawa. Braden McNabb on the move. Joe Thornton to the Devils. After the Sea to the Sabres. Montreal offer sheet of Jack Dugan from Vegas. Riker Evans went to Vancouver. Koskinen to Ottawa for 4 years. I guess Peter Chiarelli's in Ottawa now. Donato into Smith to Seattle. Holtby to Arizona. Halak back to Boston. Toronto did acquire a first and third. Timothy Liljegren is officially a Buffalo Sabre. Via offer sheet, Bergeron to Nashville. Bergeron goes to Nashville. So looking at our roster then, and the best way to sort this out, we have a few roster spots left. Goalie-wise, we're maxed out. And goalie-wise, it's interesting. Now ending up with Caden Primo. Like we almost have too many goalies in the mix now, but it was a no-brainer to pick up Caden Primo. Defensively, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, that makes sense. We'll see how many of them stay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One more really good defensive defenseman, if not two. And then the rest can be used on forwards where we don't really know what the bottom six is going to look like yet this year. So I'd say 2 decent defensemen. We have very little cap space right now, so no wonder why Joseph hasn't signed yet. Wow, Ethan Bear is still out there. He must be an RFA. He is. So is Joseph. P.O.'s not even looking for that much at this point. So in terms of defensemen, we do want to make sure they're in the depth role. If they go above that, it's problematic. Fadoon's out there. Wallman. Is there anybody else that has potential? I see Brennan Manel there. Cole Haltz, Jeremy Davies. There are still defensemen of a high 6 variety. Adam Wilsby and Emil Andre. I think one of them we have to go for Emil Andre because we were looking at him before. Throw a name into the hat there with Ottawa. And honestly, Wilsby might not be that bad of an option. Or maybe we take the risk with someone like Austin Strand. Brennan Manel would probably actually make even more sense to take a risk with. He can play both sides. As much as I like Austin Strand, let's go after KHL legend Brennan Manel. And then forward-wise, I mean, Phillips is still there. We might as well take the risk. He's 24. Tufty's never going to make it. Lockwood probably won't make it. For the high 9s, I'd have to learn how to say some of these names, but we definitely have dudes with potential. So it's almost a why not situation. Whether or not we go for Phillips or not is the question. Honestly, Phillips could end up being an AHLer for the fourth liner for us next year. Because in terms of big name forwards, we obviously don't have the money. Sonny Milano being a third liner is a problem. And then for these fourth liners, like, we really don't have the money. I mean, we will eventually, but right now we don't. Michael Dow Cole, Amadio, Justin Danforth, Louis Erickson. Yeah, I think, again, we got to look for the younger options. So we'll send a deal out to Phillips. Why not? See what the hell you're made of offer. If I'm not mistaken, that might bring us on 49. So let's only go for Phillips at the moment. Or 48 at least because of Joseph. So Emil Andre elects to go to the Thunderbirds instead. So with St. Louis. So Joseph is offer sheeted by the Coyotes for a second-round pick. Son of a bitch, the Coyotes just forced our hand. As Matthew Phillips and Brendan Manel both sign, I have to trade somebody to match it. I can't match it right now. It's a great deal, so that completely forces my hand. Let's look at interest in Michael Matheson. There's a good chance it'll be Pettersson that gets dealt. but Matheson's the guy. Is anybody interested in Matheson? All right. We actually won the cup. How you doing, by the way? So Calgary could be an option. Carolina could be an option. Colorado could shockingly be an option. Dallas. We have Detroit. We have, wow, a lot of teams. Edmonton and Florida. Way more teams are interested. LA. Way more teams are interested here than I thought they would have been. But again, we'll rule these out pretty fast if none of them have the proper space for Matheson. Well, I'm doing pretty good, dude. Looking forward to this upcoming season, I'll tell you that much. Let's see, we got Philly, Seattle, and St. Louis. Tampa also there. Man, most of the league is interested in Michael Matheson. All right, so with that, let's roll through here and see what the defensive situations look like for these teams, and if it makes sense. Calgary, honestly, no. We'd have to take back a defenseman, and we're not in a position to take back a defenseman. So Calgary's out. Carolina, same situation. They got way too much money tied up in some defensemen. Like, honestly, the only move would be to acquire Ethan Bear and then flip him, but that would be 2 trades out of our 3 for the year, and that would be a disaster. Yeah, Carolina doesn't work either. Colorado. There's an argument for Colorado. I mean, they have 3 top 2 defensemen, for fuck's sake. So, Bowen Byram makes it more tough. And with the money they got tied up in Eric Johnson, excuse me. I also don't think it's not a great deal for Colorado either. I can't fuck them over cap-wise. It's kind of one of our guidelines is don't fuck a team over. Obviously now Dallas isn't going to work because we traded them Mark Friedman after a phenomenal season. They do need another defender, but they only have $1.7 million in cap space. I'd have to take cap back, and I can't. So Dallas doesn't work either. Detroit was the one that was out there as a team that needs cap as Moritz Seider turns into a beast. And yeah, Detroit is easily a preferred destination right now. Let me check the cap of other teams here. Edmonton's way too far over. Florida's too far over. The Kings, we'll take a look at the Kings. The Kings would also work. All right, so at least we have more than one option, I think. Well, actually, hold on. Let me... Yeah, we're sorted. Some of these guys, like Clegg is a top 6, but that's okay. So the Kings definitely work. Minnesota doesn't. At least we have more than one team. Montreal's a bit too far over. Nashville's a bit too far over. Rangers are too far over. Flyers are right on the cusp. I'd probably just rather go with Detroit or LA. So pretty much we'll just leave it to, is there any team that's not over the cap anymore? We have our 2. It's either Detroit or LA for Michael Matheson. Honestly, it should probably have to be Detroit because LA finished dead last year. I don't remember where Detroit was, but he does have a no trade. We can't trade him to a bottom 8 team. I know LA was last year. I don't know where Detroit is. So we have to make this deal work with the Detroit Red Wings. That's how I'm going to rule it. And a decent little defenseman could make a lot of sense if they have anybody that really kind of fits what we're looking for. Emil Vero wouldn't make too much sense. Gustav Lindstrom wouldn't be bad. But if he goes top 6, we're in trouble. Johansson's a bit too valuable. Like Donovan Sabrango wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. McIsaac wouldn't be bad because in an IRL situation, McIsaac has had injury trouble. So you could maybe see Detroit wanting to move on from McIsaac and get him a fresh start. Wasn't very good in the AHL last year either. So we move them Matheson. We pick up McIsaac. I'm only allowed 1 AI draft pick back in return. So I might as well see if I can just get a roster player here. But... yeah, I mean, if this is one of our trades for the year, we need to make the most of this. Because otherwise, then you're talking about dropping somebody else. So presumably, we need Joseph to stay where he is, because otherwise we're probably sitting Marcus Pettersson again. Or the preemptive move is to also just give them Marcus Pettersson. And have our top 4 be Letang, Marino, Dumoulin, and Joseph. And then third pair, I'd be fucked. And would have to sign some free agents, but it could be done. But then there's also a chance if we keep Pettersson and then Joseph doesn't go up that we'd be okay. Honestly, I think that move would kind of fuck him over defensively, though. So I only needed 1 more defenseman because I did just sign Brennan Manel. It was the other guy that dropped. So technically, we'd be getting our other defenseman that we need for the moment. If we were... I mean, I kind of agree that, yeah, Brock McGinn could really be used here as well, and then we just keep Aston Reese. And this would really help them in terms of their cap issue. But even then, if we add Pettersson, just give them a shitload of money, which they desperately need. They need people with bigger contracts that can play in the NHL. And we take back Gustav Lindstrom or Jordan Osterley. Osterley would make sense because he can play both sides. How long is Osterley signed for? Only through the year? That's not bad. And that way their defense would be Seider, Ronick, Braun, Matheson, Pettersson. Which means their defense would be sick aside from a third guy. Which you could argue would be Lindstrom by the time he improves rather than Osterley. As much as I'd like Lindstrom, Osterley makes more sense because I don't know what the fuck our defense is going to look like, and it makes sense to have someone that can play both sides. So again, we get back Osterley as a roster player, McIsaac as a prospect. They get 3 usable players that they really do need. I don't disagree that like someone like Emil Viro could work too. That might be a little bit too much. Edvinsson would definitely be too much. I don't think they'd necessarily want to give up, obviously, a better player like Viro. Prospect-wise, like Jonathan Berggren would be great, but I think that value would be a bit too much because we are still on hard difficulty as well. It's a danger to kind of bring in anybody else. If they have anybody that really stands out, that would be kind of nice to pick up, and I don't really think they do. I mean, Vero would make a lot of sense. I'm not denying that. I feel like it would have to be Vero or Osterley. Because again, I don't want to take great prospects and also dump a shitload of cap onto them. Like it's one or the other. It's either we dump a shitload of cap or we get great prospects back. So I think, honestly, I mean, I'm going to let them win this trade, but really they're doing us a big favor. We take McIsaac because it makes a lot of sense. He's had some injury trouble as a prospect. Vero, no doubt's a better prospect. We get a third in there as well. Osterley is a roster player for this year. And they take on Matheson, Pettersson, and Brock McGinn and get rid of a lot of our problems. I think we do it. I think we do it. And then that way we have the money to match for P.O. Joseph. That's a done deal. So we move a lot of our problem deals to the Red Wings. We will have the money to match on P.O. Joseph here. Let's wait for the day to come across. And we will match that offer of 3.2 for 2 years. So my decision to be patient kind of ended up costing us more money for P.O. Joseph than had I been a bit more proactive in that decision. But again, goalie-wise, now we're set. Defensively, Letang, Marino, Dumoulin, and Joseph as the top 4 for this year. And then probably Osterley and Manel. I could look at signing somebody else. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We do need one more defenseman, ideally. And then, again, a forward or two. Since we don't have any RFAs left, we did just free up some roster spots. So let's see. Defensively. UFA-wise, could still go for the likes of Austin Strand, which I don't hate. There's also Davey and Holtz, but I don't really like the looks of that. Let's go for Adam Wilsby. I mean, there's an outside chance that maybe, just maybe, possibly, potentially he could be decent. Unless there's a medium 6 that's decent. Timo Nickel's still out there. Nickel might be better. Let's go for Nickel. I don't know why he wasn't signed, but let's go for Nickel. And we'll also go for one more decent defender. I'm going to pick up Austin Strand and hopefully not regret it. And then forward-wise, now that we have a little bit more money, I don't believe, right, that there were any, like, great prospects we were looking at. There's this. Well, actually, there's a couple. Hirvonen and this super Finnish dude. And then we could just kind of leave it to see what the fourth line's going to look like out of younger players. We have a coach that tends to roll 3 lines anyway. So I'm not overly worried about having a great fourth line. I think we have to go for the prospects first and foremost that somehow hung around until August. Don't understand that. So Joseph, of course, stays. We knew that. Nickel signs. Pietia, whatever it might be. Strand and Hirvonen. And I think that leaves me one more roster spot. No, it doesn't. That puts us at a 50 out of 50. Okay. I think I'm okay with that. I'd rather have those guys than have Jimmy Vesey as like a 1-year fill-in. So we have one of our 3 trades for the season used up, but it was the right one to do to keep P.O. Joseph. I mean, you had a feeling Matheson and Pedersen weren't long for this team anyway. And as defending Stanley Cup champions, oh my god, we have Jarian Lindbergh, which is perfect. And we can park the others in the minors here, which is also fine. I feel sorry for Diorio, but it is what it is. Defensively, the ones at the draft are separate, so we've made one. And indeed, P.O. Joseph went up to top 4. We made the right move. Strand and Manel are both depth defensemen. Perfect. Perfect. So that's our defense. Presumably Strand will play, and then that way Brendan Manel can play both sides as the depth defenseman. I think that worked out really well. We really had to be smart about it, but I think that worked out really well. Only thing to worry about on that blue line now is knowing that Dumoulin's up at the end of the year. But the AHL defense will also be pretty sweet. And then forward-wise, this is the big question. So again, we still have the second line exemption for Malkin. So our top line this year is going to be Giroux, Crosby, Gensel, which is ridiculous. My God. The second line will be Rust, Malkin, and Pavelski. Third line, we obviously have an issue, but not a major one. So the third line, it's going to have to be some combination of Zucker, Bluger, Cappy, and Aston Reese. One of those 3 will either have to be traded or will have to sit out the entire year, and I'm leaning towards sit out the entire year. because trading them right now it's a bit too much. And then we have the fourth line, which Drew O'Connor will make once again. So he bounced back up. So Drew O'Connor will be on the fourth line if we want to use him. And that means the rest of the fourth line could be made up of younger players. Center-wise, could make sense to give Philip Hollander a chance. Could give Matty Phillips a chance, or we could just go with someone like Michael Chaput. So yeah, Puistinen won't be able to play this year. At least beyond the depth role, because Drew O'Connor has that fourth line spot, unless we elect to not use Drew O'Connor. So the fourth line, we still have some questions. I think we can think about that and sort that out for tomorrow. But for the most part, there's no pressing need aside from what do we do on the third line. But again, the first line this year is Giroux, Crosby, Gensel, which is just stupid. And then it's Rust, Malkin, Pavelski, which is also just delicious. We somehow added Pavelski and Giroux to this team. And then the third line, again, if Cappy's on the right, Bluger's at center, it's either Aston Reese or Zucker, and I gotta be honest, I think Aston Reese is out. I think he is. And then that fourth line isn't set in stone yet at all. But, damn. The problem is, too, we signed Aston Reese for 2 years, so if we put him down in the minors for the entire season, that could be problematic. And then this defense is hilarious, and I love it. Again, even if we don't play Strand and if we play Brennan Manel instead, I love where we're at. I like that defense a lot. And Lindbergh only went up by a point, but that's okay. I love where this team is right now. I gotta be honest, I think we've really put ourselves right back in a position to still be competitive. We had to move on from a lot of people, but that was always going to be the case. As Michael Hutchinson signs in Vancouver, have fun with that, Canucks fans. And Flyers fans, have fun with this. This is the perfect way to end today. Looking at Claude Giroux in a Flyers uniform. Just kidding. It's a Penguins uniform. How's it feel? Oh, does it feel good? Look at it. Oh, it's sassy. That's a sassy bit of business right there.